On the show Kitchen Nightmares, we see Gordon Ramsay enter restaurants all over the country that are on the edge of failure and attempts to help them turn it all around and finally become profitable. But throughout the show's 10 years on the air, we saw some truly awful restaurants, from crazy owners, rat-filled kitchens, and even poisonous food. In today's video, we take a look at 3 of the worst restaurants to ever be featured on Kitchen Nightmares and where they are today. Did they turn it all around, or was it just too much to handle? First up, we have a small restaurant called Amy's Baking Company that opened up in 2006 in the state of Arizona. Gordon is set to meet owners, a husband and wife team, Sammy and Amy, but before that, we are shown what a normal day looks like in the Amy's Baking Company restaurant. As we are introduced to Sammy and Amy, we find out that their main problem, or at least what they think their problem is that reviewers and bloggers kept coming into their restaurants and making up lies, saying that the food was disgusting, but that's not where the delusion ends, as we see what happens when people don't quite like their food.
You pay, you don't go out. If you touch a you come from here, I told you. You go. You. Kidding me right now? No, I'm kidding. You, not kidding you.
But in reality, the problem isn't the reviewers and bloggers, it's that the food is bad and the 2 owners are crazy, delusional, and even described as nuts by their own staff. When Gordon finally enters the building, he is met with the facade of a brilliant restaurant with 2 lovely owners, Sammy and Amy, a spotless kitchen, and some amazing food on display. But this doesn't last for long, as Gordon starts to see the crazy breaking through.
I speak feline. Meow, 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 meow.
He then gets told that the owner Sammy takes all of the tip from the waiting staff, which in America is a huge no-no. And then after waiting for hours, he finally gets to try the food. And
my dough's raw. After all this wait. Oh look. That is one shit burger. It's like a salmon cake, crab cake. It's overcooked. I mean, it's not good because it is like eating dry cat food.
After this, he sits in on an average day's service and the wool that had been previously pulled over Gordon's eyes completely disappears, as he finally sees the full truth about how awful the food is. And after this, it really does become a kitchen nightmare as the restaurant practically collapses in on itself.
Katie, listen to me when I'm speaking to you. Do not walk away from me. You don't work here anymore, okay? Don't start crying. Why are you behaving like this? Oh my God!
Come on.
Since I'm talking,
I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't doing anything.
You've had an attitude with me all night long, Katie. Okay,
please.
Okay, I quit. I quit.
Following this, for the first time ever, Gordon decides that the restaurant is unsavable and leaves. But what happened to Amy's Baking Company, and what are the owners doing now? After the episode aired, they became famous, but not in a good way, as although people would visit their restaurant, it was just to see if the food was actually bad, whilst hoping to see the crazy owners going mad as seen in the episode. And much to Amy's dismay, the evil bloggers and reviewers didn't stop after the episode, and it really just got worse. But to give them credit, they did try and capitalize on the fame by selling t-shirts that said "I am a gangster," which is an iconic line from the episode. The couple also then appeared on an episode of Dr. Phil, and it went as expected, with Sammy claiming that the customers were actually actors. But after all of this, Amy's Baking Company did eventually come to an end 2 years later in 2015, with the reason being that they actually just wanted to take a break.
In 2015, we decided we wanted to take a break. We sold our restaurant.
We sold the restaurant. We didn't close it.
And if this is true, it makes it one of the few restaurants on Kitchen Nightmares that didn't actually get closed down. So what are they doing in 2023? Well, to start, the building has now become a martial arts dojo, and while Sammy hasn't posted on social media since 2021, Amy is still very active on Instagram, posting baking videos and occasionally still gets angry at people on Facebook. And the last public thing that they have said about Amy's Baking Company was on an interview they did in 2021, in which they claimed that they didn't even want the episode to air, and that most of the things in the episode were cleverly edited and mostly fake.
We told them that we don't want you to air the show. We don't want to have anything to do with you. And then a week before they aired it, I received a call from Fox and they told me to get ready. I said, get ready for what? She said, well, we are airing your show. You're the season finale.
But Kitchen Nightmares and Amy's Baking Company is really not a worry for them anymore, as they have moved and seem very happy, with Amy even planning to open a new bakery near her home, and now realise that the way they acted on the show was very crazy. But let's see what happens with Amy's new bakery. bakery. And speaking of pizza, next we have a pizza restaurant called Sal's Pizzeria that opened in 1970 by the current owner's parents. Gordon went to meet owner John, but before this happened, we are shown a bit more about the restaurant. We find out that it used to be very successful and that they were even able to buy the place next door and named it after his mother. But having a pizzeria and a restaurant with just one manager wasn't a recipe for success. Gordon enters the restaurant and is ready to try the food, but it doesn't start off very well, as he is first shown a mouldy food display.
And that mould on there, you show that?
And then served frozen bland pasta and greasy pizza. But it doesn't stop there, as he sits in on a dinner service and it all goes to beep. First up, they decide to serve a vegetarian a meal with a pork bone sauce, and if that doesn't sound bad enough, the next person they serve starts to get sick, which is when Gordon finds out that they had basically poisoned the guy with a decomposed lobster meal.
That's pneumonia, that's what releases when the body starts to decompose. Joe, just clarify something for me.
We could possibly kill them.
Someone. And whilst we're discussing this, there's a man vomiting in the toilet now.
They called an ambulance and the guy was taken away and recovered, but was this just too much for Gordon to deal with? Turns out it wasn't, as Gordon returned the next day to take a look at the kitchen, and it was just crap after crap for John and Sal's Pizzeria, as he discovered mountains and mountains of frozen food with no date and no sign of ever being used. Eventually, Gordon did get to the bottom of the problems, and after a huge rebrand and redesign with an all-new menu, it seemed like he had fixed Sal's Pizzeria, as once again the place was packed full of happy customers. But we've seen this all before, so did it carry on, or did Sal's Pizzeria slip back into its unprofitable ways? The episode aired on the 9th of November 2012, and as they came to the new year, both restaurants were actually still open and doing very well, as it seemed that John had managed to maintain the quality of the dining experience. And this went on to the next year and the next year, and it became one of the few restaurants to survive 5 years after the episode aired. But John didn't stop in 2017, as he managed to keep both restaurants open all the way up to 2023 until they eventually closed for good. But it isn't what you think, as John actually closed the restaurants himself because he just wanted to retire, which makes Sal's Pizzeria and Mama Maria's one of the most successful restaurants to ever feature on Kitchen Nightmares. And speaking of Irish family restaurants, next up we have an Irish family restaurant called FinnMcCool's that was opened up by owner Buddy just 12 hours after he retired. As Gordon is on his way, we are introduced to the rest of the family, Brian the head chef and Jason the bar manager, but we quickly find out that they really don't enjoy working as a family.
Can I help? I'm gonna kick you right in the teeth, I swear to you. Help, yeah. Get out of here. What do you need me to do? I would definitely not recommend working with family. No, it's a pain in the ass.
And we also see that the restaurant is in a lot of debt and quickly dying, and if they don't change something soon, Buddy and his family could lose everything they've worked so hard to build. But this is where Gordon comes in to try and identify the holes in this sinking ship. First thing he checks is the food. He orders some spring rolls, a salmon, and a classic shepherd's pie, but I think you know how this is about to go.
It's a very strange, bizarre looking spring roll. Horrible. Doesn't taste of salmon at all. Oh.
That's disgusting.
Do you want it?
Second door on the left.
Oh. Oh no.
My God, something made him sick.
After throwing up, he went to inspect the kitchen, and it was no better than the food he just ate. And it just gets worse from there, as we see what a normal day at FinnMcCool's looks like. He sees a chef drop something on the floor and then put it back in the meal, and the owner's reaction should tell you everything you need to know.
Dropped the wing on the floor. Picked up, stuck it back in the fryer again.
To try and save the restaurant, Gordon had a serious one-to-one with Brian about how to be a better chef, and brought in his design team to give FinnMcCool's a makeover it desperately needed for its big relaunch and last chance at success. The place was packed, but they started to struggle to get food out in time, but as some people were starting to leave, they kicked it up a notch and began serving delicious food, and actually ended the night with a very successful dinner service. We are then shown that 2 months later, FinnMcCool's is still open and establishing itself as a brilliant local family restaurant. But could they keep this up for more than just 2 months? Or would they revert back to their former selves and let the doors close forever? They kept up this momentum for a short amount of time, but just 2 years later it lost that momentum and Buddy had to sell the restaurant. And after this, the family still got to work there until it finally closed down for good in 2012, as they just couldn't keep the sinking ship afloat any longer despite Gordon's help. But what are they doing now over 10 years later? I couldn't find much information about Jason, but I did find out that Buddy's other son Brian later opened a restaurant called Shuckers in 2011. 2011. After years in operation, they couldn't afford to stay open and instead turned into a successful food truck and currently supplies food for different restaurants and events, with him hopefully realizing how hard it was for his dad to run FinnMcCools. And sadly, I found out that Buddy had passed away earlier this year from a post on Brian's Instagram story saying goodbye to his dad. Throughout the entire episode, Buddy really seemed like a genuine, loving and happy guy, and it really is a huge loss. Sorry to end it on a sad note there, but if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, because one day I want to high five The Rock.